There's a letter that my attorney sends to me from the city attorney where it's the first official demand from the city that says that I need to return the photos and delete all of my digital copies. That's when I find out that I'm getting sued by the city of Los Angeles.
One of the cornerstones of open and accountable government in the United States is freedom of information. And so the federal government and every state, certainly California, have freedom of information laws, which require the government to produce or disclose copies of public records on request of any member of the public, unless those records are specifically exempt from disclosure by a particular provision of law. So the premise is that public records belong to the people, and the people have a right to see them on request, unless a specific provision in the law exempts them from disclosure.
In 2021, there was an incident in downtown Santa Ana. There was a video on social media going around that showed kind of like a fight going on the street. Somebody saying that one of the people involved is an off-duty officer with the Santa Ana Police Department. So I had video of the incident, and I just thought, well, if I had a photo of him, I could try to ID him myself. And so I made a request for all of the department's headshots. The city responded to me basically saying that they were going to release the photos that I requested, minus the undercover photos. So I was able to ID the officer. Before that happened, I was also looking at LAPD cop watch videos. And I was noticing this pattern where LAPD would deny identifying themselves when asked, would hide their badges, not provide their badge numbers. In the more extreme cases, they would shine a flashlight into a camera, effectively blinding it. That makes my job a lot harder, because if you don't know who's involved with what you're looking into, then that's not a solid investigation. And having just gotten Santa Ana's photos, I thought, well, I just did it in Santa Ana. The city realized that this was a lawful request, and I got the photos. Let me just do this here in LA. And so in late 2021, I submitted the request for LAPD's headshots. They responded basically saying that the photos existed only on an analog format. To locate them and to digitize them would essentially be a huge task that they weren't gonna do. And I don't know, that didn't really sit well with me, because I had a hard time accepting that a police department that receives billions in funding, A, doesn't have its employees' photos in digital format, or B, doesn't have the resources to do what they said they need to do. And so I sued them. Fast forward to September, and the city attorney lets me and my attorneys know that they were going to release the photos, that undercover photos were not going to be included, and that I would need to provide a flash drive, because I guess they couldn't figure out how to transfer 300 megabytes worth of JPEGs to me. Spent $6 on a flash drive, gave it to the city, and then on September 16th, I went to City Hall to pick up the flash drive, the paper roster that I had requested, and they also gave me the letter that has been posted everywhere that specifically states that undercover officers will not be included. Looked through the roster, and there's no redactions or anything on there, and so I assumed that whatever name they needed to remove was not in there. And then I plugged that little flash drive into a laptop, checked out all the photos, and I sat on the photos. And then the Stop LAPD Spying organization contacted me for the photos, because they were aware that I was making this request, and me being no gatekeeper of anything that belongs to the public, I gave them the photos. And then I see that that organization created the Watch the Watchers website, where they essentially compiled all the photos into one database, one searchable database. That's the same day that I find out that the police union has an issue with some of the photos that are on this website.
And joining us now to talk more about this case is the director of the LA Police Protective Leave, Jamie McBride. Help us understand how serious this is. Is this putting officer safety directly at risk?
Absolutely. We have officers that are working very sensitive investigations. They work the Mexican drug cartels, the Mexican mafia, human trafficking. This is the tip of the iceberg. This is probably the worst security breach I've seen in my 32 years with LAPD.
So I'm seeing all of this happen, and then there's a letter that my attorney sends to me from the city attorney where it's the first official demand that from the city that says that I need to return the photos and delete all of my digital copies. And maybe a few days after that, that's when I find out that I'm getting sued by the city of Los Angeles.
City of LA is suing the journalist and the police watchdog group that requested and then distributed the names and photos of some 9,000 LA police officers.
Photos and information of hundreds of undercover officers were accidentally released during a public records request.
I think we need to get to the bottom of how this happened, and people need to be held fully accountable.
I've never seen this before where they've sued to get back records that they gave a reporter, so I think it's very chilling. It could really happen to any reporter, so this is a very important case to fight. We're very confident that the court will see that this is a violation of the First Amendment and get this case thrown out. They can't win a prior restraint, which is a court order ordering the press either not to publish something in the future or to take it down and then not publish it in the future. And so that's what they're seeking here. A court can order a publication to stop publishing something, but it has to be on the highest order of sort of national security. And it can't be just sort of conjecture, oh, it might happen. It has to be kind of factually based, and they just don't have the facts here.
I think it's an open and shut case. He made a request for public records. The police department initially denied it. He sued them. He settled that case. They gave him the records. He acted in good faith. He, as a member of the public, is entitled to share the records that he is given in good faith by the government. And I think that the city's lawsuit is a travesty. It's an appalling violation of both the Public Records Act and the First Amendment.
Because they're demanding for me to return the photos and delete copies and never share anything ever again with those photos, I'm not going to do that. And also, I think that if I did, it could set a dangerous precedent for the California Public Records Act and just public records in general.
If the LA Police Union is really worried about their officers' safety, why did they go public with this? Why did they create this huge national story? Stop LAPD Spying does not have a national presence. When they had a press release and announced that they have these photos on their website, nothing. There were no news stories, nothing. It just fell. So it wasn't until the union publicized this that suddenly it becomes very public, and then a whole lot of people look at these photos that never would have looked at them before. So you have to wonder, is the LAPD union really worried about its officers' safety? Or are they just trying to create public sympathy and kind of attack the media? I think it's the latter.
And to try to scapegoat me and intimidate me into giving something that, even if I gave you whatever copies I have and the flash drive, that's not going to do anything.
There are officers, though, who are fearing for their safety. What do you have to say to officers?
Take it up with the city.